Hello and welcome to the second episode of PowerOn Podcast. This is Dashing Drew Rude, along with my illustrious co-host,
Chad Novinka.
We are going to be covering Alien today, specifically the first movie, and in conjunction we're going to talk about Alien Isolation because they fit pretty much hand in hand. That's what we're going to be talking about pretty much for the bulk of the episode, is reviewing the movie for starters. So if you haven't seen it, you're definitely going to want to watch it because it's going to be ruined. And I'd hate to do that if you haven't seen it. So you definitely want to make sure you watch it before you listen. Is there a problem? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We were having some audio problems earlier before we started the show, so we were making sure everything was okay.
I think it's okay now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was getting some looks. We appreciate the feedback that we got, by the way, for the audio. We've tried to fix it. We've made some changes.
Well, we're trying.
Yeah, the squeaking chair is gone. And because we got requests that you want to hear all the plugs first, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So if you want to email us, you can get to us at poweronpod@gmail.com. The Facebook is PowerOn Podcast, and the Twitter is @PowerOnPod. I think that's pretty much it. And if you want to catch the extra episodes that we're doing, I'm not sure what we're going to do those on yet. We haven't really talked about it.
Maybe we can record one today.
Yeah, we'll figure. Yeah, it's still pretty early. We'll figure something out.
Yeah,
they'll be up on Patreon. Our Patreon page I now have is patreon.com/PowerOn. So if you want to get to us to support the show and get those extra episodes, that's how you do that. So now that that's out of the way, is there anything that has sparked your interest before we start the material?
Like news stuff for the week.
News.
Okay.
Whatever.
Last Friday, April Fool's Day, one of my favorite bands, Yeasayer, came out with a new album, and it is fantastic. It's called Amen and Goodbye. Great, kind of psychedelic pop type of stuff.
Is it bad that I've never heard of them before?
No, of course not. You know, It's just something I'm really into. I'm really into them, so I'm plugging them because I love it. I think it's an amazing album. It's way better than the last one. It's like a good conglomeration of past 3 albums. 4 albums for a band is good. 4 good albums, I'll take it. Also, I believe the new Magic the Gathering set comes out today. I haven't picked it up, but hey, if anybody else is interested in Magic, maybe want to do little extra shows I could do about them, I'm into it, man. What about you?
I feel like we got to mention that we do live by a jet base.
Oh, yeah.
And that's unstoppable. They like to fly a lot. Sometimes during at night, sometimes randomly. We don't really know when it's going to happen. So if you hear a roaring, that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's something that we're not going to be able to ever fix, unfortunately. No. And there's no amount of walls unless we're in a dam, unless we're in a bank vault. You're gonna hear it.
Yeah, even if we were in,
it doesn't matter. Even if you're in a studio, you'd hear it. So,
did you have something about a writer?
Yeah, I do. So I have to prefix what I'm about to say with I love George R.R. Martin. Right? I love the guy. I love Game of Thrones.
Okay.
He is. And I want to be careful because if he ever does listen to this, I don't want him to think I hate him. But
right.
Okay, so most people know what Game of Thrones is. They watch the show, or at least you've heard of it. It's a big TV show. Well, it's based off of his books, which are fantastic. I've listened to the audio version. I didn't
you have? You never read them, though?
Yeah. But they're good stuff. And he is essentially famous for these books now because of the TV show.
What's the title of the actual series? Song of Fire and Ice?
Yeah, Song of Fire and Ice. And he is currently writing I think it's The Winds of Winter. It's the
what number book is that?
Oh, shit, dude. I think it's the 5th. I'm not sure, though. And he's taking a more than reasonable amount of time to finish it, considering that they're on a TV production schedule.
But he never had to be rushed before. He's going at a similar pace that he's been writing them since early 90s?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been writing them for a long time, and that's true. You do have to take that into consideration. Yeah. But I'm concerned that now that they're past the point of book material, that it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to be crappier than the books eventually will be, or it will be better, and then Martin's going to look bad. I don't know. The whole situation is just irritating. I had wished that they had kept to the schedule. But I read an article yesterday. This is kind of, well, I didn't read it. This girl at work told me that she had, and this is like word of mouth. So I did not read this article. This was just something that was given to me. Yeah. She said that he was building some sort of illusionist fun house with an artist in California.
See, and that just sounds... That's more interesting to me than Game of Thrones.
To you. I know, and I knew, of course, you're going to be adverse.
I'm not saying Game of Thrones isn't a bad show or anything. It's just,
I'm just saying,
haven't gotten into it.
I'm just saying, if I had been working on that show, I would be looking at him with the biggest what the fuck look.
Hey, man, I got kids' feed type of shit. Like,
yeah. Like, what are you doing?
This is my job, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. This seems frustrating to me that now that his work is famous, because I've seen interviews where he's like, I forget what TV show it was, but someone was like, "Oh, well, how are you taking it that all your fans are reacting this way to this episode because it was a really big episode. I don't want to ruin it." And he's like, "Well, now you know why all my actual fans or my fans were pissed off 13 years ago." It's like. I understand.
Before the show came out. And they were looking for the next book. Where the fuck's the next book?
It's almost like he's mad that his work got famous
of course
after the fact.
He's a writer.
Yeah, so now it's like it seemingly is punishing people for not giving a damn before. And you know what? I don't even think it's his work's fault. And clearly it isn't. I think it's the fact that people in America just don't like to read. Or if they do,
it's exactly what it is, man. I mean, if he's an author, he's a master of the written word. He's linguistics. He's into that type of stuff, and it probably saddens him that he didn't get this fame from when he was putting effort into the book. Because I think it's harder to write a book than it is to do anything else. Because you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
If it was a television show or anything, there is other people you can lean on and like pass off around ideas, and there's other jobs, and it's delegated. It's collaborative effort. Well, it's union. It's union, and like the dude who changes the light bulbs, that's his job. He's not allowed to do anything else, and if you try to change the light bulb, you're going to get in trouble because you're doing his job. It's a very, organized process, whereas with writing, it's him by himself. I don't know if Martin's a drinker. Most authors are. And they're usually substance abusers, and there's probably a lot of lonely nights, lonely months by himself on it. I would assume that he probably types on like some old typewriter he's had since the 70s or something, Yeah. And he's an editor too, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that like his main
that I can't blame him for. It's just the Funhouse thing. I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like,
you don't want to rush him though. I mean,
no, I know. It's one of those things where like you want to be pissed, but you can't because you understand why you can't.
You're pissed because you're a fan and your hunger for his material is insatiable.
This is what kills me. I think that so now think about it this way: pretty much everything that they've pulled from until now has been his dialogue
for the show. Like,
who the hell's writing it now? Because I know he's not doing it.
It's been pretty.
So it's like, is it going to be a drop in like quality because he's not behind the wheel anymore?
Because now the writers of the show don't have a book that they can crack open and go, "Oh, what did he say here? That was such a good line. Oh, let me go." Reference this.
They have no primary source material.
Well, what if they have some type of manuscript that he works like? He's like, hey, here's another chapter.
I can't imagine that he's just letting them go buck wild. He's got to be involved in it somehow.
And they've basically caught up to his books now, right?
Yeah, they passed it. So now we're going to have to see
it's weird, man. You don't know if I'm sure that he knows the ending. He probably knows his ending.
Yeah, I read that he told them. Yeah. I don't know. It's something that like spins my brain as I sit at work all day, and I get frustrated about it. I had to mention it. I had to say something about it. It's just I think the Funhouse thing. Like I don't know what it is. I think it's like an artistic project. I keep calling it a Funhouse. Cool. But
I'd like to look that up and see photos of it or something.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Again, none of this could all be false. Well, I don't know. This was I heard this from somebody else, but still, when I heard it, I let out the biggest prolonged sigh you've ever heard. It's like, here we go again. It's almost a running gag now. Like, what is he doing other than writing on the book?
Eating sandwiches, probably.
I'm not going to comment on that one. I'm going to let that slide. Anyway, so we're going to get into Alien today. So,
1979.
Yeah,
directed by Ridley Scott.
The wrong page up. Yeah, it seems to have been started as almost as a horror franchise, and it's turned into action, right?
Well, actually, I got an interesting thing about how it started. The main writers, what is their names here? Oh, let me check my... Okay, so Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, they were both two writers, and Dan O'Bannon, you get that right, had worked on a film called Dark Star by John Carpenter. Early John Carpenter film. It's actually a really good band named Pinback, named after that band. Named after that movie. And I guess it was more of a comedy, kind of a spoof of like 2001. Okay. Yeah, right? Like, I've never even seen this movie, and we're Carpenter fans.
Yeah, so am I.
It's weird. And after he made it, you know, he really wanted to make a serious space movie, like a horror film with aliens. And originally...
This is O'Bannon.
Yeah, this is still Bannon. And he started working on scripts of something. It was either him or his partner, Roland Shusett, had a story about gremlins on a plane.
God.
And so now, well, you see where Alien starts to go, because Alien is basically a ship in deep space, and there's an alien menace on it. Yeah, it was just based on earlier scripts from both, and they kind of like just started combining stuff. And then Bannon had seen like Geiger's artwork, and they had worked with other artists at the time. Mobius was real inspiration to him for that. And so it's really O'Bannon and Shusett that made it. You know, everyone goes to Ridley Scott's Alien. It's his direction, but it's
their story.
It's O'Bannon and Shusett's story. Yeah.
I was surprised at how well it kept up when I watched it, because I watched it maybe 2 weeks ago, I think, in preparation for the show.
Yes, and I'd seen it probably about four months ago. It's the last time I watched it.
There's a lack of computer graphics.
Oh, well, there's no
and it
graphics.
Works.
There's not even stop motion in it.
No, it's all.
Maybe the outside space, the shots of the Nostromo
I think that's
spaceship.
a miniature, dude. I really think.
Yeah, I believe it is a miniature,
But the point is, there's no computer-generated images, so it looks great. It was made in 1979. Now, the version I watched was the 2003 Director's Cut Blu-ray, so it was probably cleaned up. Excuse me. It was probably cleaned up, but it looked like I could have, they could have made it 5-6 years ago, and I wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, it's really just
hairstyles.
Yeah. Sigourney Weaver. Well, let's talk about who stars in it then,
right?
So we can talk about that. So we got Tom Skerritt, who plays
Dallas. He's the captain of the ship, which is called Nostromo. And at the beginning of the show, I'm going to talk about the ship before we get too far into the cast.
A little bit.
There's 7 of them on the ship. The ship's called the Nostromo, and it's essentially a mining vessel. And it was going back to Earth with 20 million tons of mineral oil. Why does that sound weird to me, though?
Well, because you can just
go
to
the shit you put in lotions.
You can go to the health food store and get mineral oil.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Maybe there's all types of mineral oils.
Because then I started thinking about it. I was like, well, what the hell? Like, we don't have a problem with it now. Like, why do they need 20 million tons of mineral
Well, because of all the vanity that's encapsulated our future.
That's what it is.
We need oil. So then there's Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver is Ripley, who's
Lieutenant Ripley.
It's interesting because I don't know. She ends up being the main character of the franchise. I mean, that we kind of just have to say. You can't really hide
Very
it.
True. She's the face of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you watch the movie though, she's almost a part of an ensemble. It doesn't feel like she was the lead up until
closer to the end.
Yeah.
You don't get that until later on. And then you realize that she is the lead.
Yeah.
It's like a well-written novel where you don't. Your main character's not, this is Toby. He's your main character.
Right.
She's kind of in the background.
Yeah.
She says a few things. Well, I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, she's definitely the most opinionated, which we'll get to later.
Well, you can tell she's intelligent.
I think she's, I might be wrong, and you can blow me up if I am, but I think she's third in command. I'm pretty sure she's third because she says that when Dallas and Kane, who's the next guy I'll mention.
Yeah, I believe she is.
When they're off the ship, she's the commanding officer. So Kane, I think, was the second in command next to Dallas, who's the captain.
Yeah.
And if you want to get a little character background, Dallas strikes me as a grizzled. he likes being a captain of a spacecraft, if you want to call it a spacecraft, but he's done it for like 20 years.
Well, he hates the company.
Yeah, he doesn't like the company he's working for, and he's just like, he just wants to get from point A to point B without any problems.
And let's all say that the ship is owned by the company, the Weyland-Yutani, right?
Weyland-Yutani, yeah.
Yes.
So
it's kind of a plot point.
Yeah, oh yeah. And Ripley is kind of like, if you take her character in this first movie, she's very strict with the rules. I noticed when I was watching a lot of the dialogue she dropped. Some of the stuff I'll say later was
she goes by the company's
hilarious.
rules. What they told her, she believes them.
Yeah. Then you've got, we'll mention Kane. He's like
played by
John Hurt. Yeah, John Hurt. Sorry, you don't really get too much information on him, to be honest, because he's not a, well, I mean, he's a major character, but he just doesn't have a lot of dialogue.
No, he kind of
he doesn't. I mean, he's there at the beginning, and he he gets up out of the things, like we'll talk about later. He gets up out of what they call cryo sleep, where they can essentially like put their bodies in state, if you want to think about it that way. So essentially, if you're in a cryo machine for 100 years, you can come out still looking the age you were when you went in.
It boggles my mind that we have to explain what a cryogenic sleep is.
Hey.
Even though that's a completely, really fictional thing, to me, I'm almost like, oh, that's like common knowledge.
I mean, it might be.
Being into like science fiction.
I promise you, I could find somebody who doesn't
of course,
know what I'm talking about.
I know. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff I don't know that other people know. Think I'm an idiot for, but
why was I mentioning that? Oh yeah. So when he comes out, he like says like a few things, and then that's it. We'll get into that later. It kind of ruins the story, though. Next up, you got Veronica Cartwright as Lambert, the Nostromo's navigator. Mm-hmm. This woman.
She's kind of hysterical.
Hysterical is perfect. Yeah. She is the quintessential. I don't want to say female. I'll say person. I'll say person who cries, right? Because I've known people from both genders that'll do it. That just are out of control in survival situations.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is this:
they can't keep her cool.
Yeah, she loses her mind. Like no matter what's happening. Like if you tell them something. Another example: you ever seen what's the movie? Deep Blue Sea.
I remember Deep Blue Sea.
There's that. He's the mechanic, the guy who's like. Knows everything about the sub, the lab that they're in, but he's hysteric. Like he loses. Oh my god, he doesn't know what's happening. The shark's loose. He's losing his mind. He's one of those, or she's one of those.
Yeah.
So she's basically completely unreliable. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Ian Holm, who's Ash. She's the ship's science officer, and he's really. For reasons you'll find out later, a cold individual.
Yeah,
has no personality.
Yeah, let's
whatsoever.
pull off on that.
We'll yeah. He seems very pragmatic, very like. Well, if you got a cut in your finger, he wouldn't say, "Oh, are you okay?" He'd say, "Let me go get the Band-Aid." You know what I'm saying? Like would have like no emotion towards what you're saying, which is kind of strange.
Yeah.
But then you kind of expect that from. God, I'm just going to offend everybody. Then you expect that from scientists. I don't know. I mean, I've never known any scientists. So, who do we got next?
Yaphet Kotto.
Yaphet Kotto. He is the chief engineer. His name is Parker in the movie.
He's one of my favorite characters.
Oh,
in the
dude,
movie.
he's great.
Yeah.
He's like 6'2". He's the Barry Burton of the Nostromo.
Yeah,
like
he is very much the Barry Burton.
250.
I love when he's got the band. It's like the bandana around his head. Yeah. He's just a badass.
He's cool, and he's best friends with Brett. I've got a sheet here, and I can't find his name for some reason. I know I put him on here. There you go, Harry Dean Stanton. Yeah, and he's the engineering technician. So Parker's the chief engineer, and Brett is the engineering technician. So he's like the second in command, but there's only two people on the ship. So he's simultaneously second in command and the lowest guy, the lowest ranked on the ship. I think that's it for the crew. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cartwright, Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm.
Yep, that's Ash. Yep.
Yep.
So we got everybody. Okay, so it's this group of people, and they're in cryosleep, coming back from harvesting 20 million tons of mineral oil. And they pick up a distress signal, right? An SOS. And this is where I have like one complaint, if I were to complain about the movie, and it's really a nitpick, is they don't really explain to you what humans' relationship is with extraterrestrials, right? They don't. They never comment on it.
Well, I don't think there's ever been any contact before. Is there?
They don't tell you.
They don't tell you that because there's got to be some type
and then,
of like.
And then
animal.
I'll tell you this: later on, when they go to the ship, Dallas sees the alien. He sees an alien that was on the ship that set out the SOS. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm trying to make a point. He's just like, oh, alien life form, chest busted. He did not seem surprised.
Yeah.
So it's like they're aware of certain aliens or extraterrestrials, but they don't tell you that. Like when you watch the movie, they really don't.
Because he doesn't freak out.
No, like you would think, like holy shit.
Are we just gonna jump down to like they get a distress beacon and they're on the planet?
Yeah, they get a distress beacon. They come out of their little cryo sleeps, which almost looks like a birthing. Like when I looked at it, it's very sterile, very white. Kind of like well, they look sick. Like it almost looks like the womb is opening because they're in a little capsule, and they come out all like in their skivvies, looking sick and tired. It looks like it makes you ill because of the process.
Well, and there's all these chemicals that are pumped into your like body to like as you're sleeping. Yeah.
Right. So they come out of there, and everybody's like, "Oh shit, we've got a distress beacon." Right.
Why do they even go to get it? Don't they have orders?
They explain it. No, apparently Parker and Brett get pissed off. First of all, they're complaining about bonuses. Is like as soon as they come out, they're bitching that they don't get paid as much as somebody else on the ship. But then they find out they get this distress beacon. They have to check it out. That's their first question. Why do we have to do this?
Yeah,
we're not rescuers. But apparently, in the Weyland-Yutani company policy, if you're a freighter, a shipper, like a spacecraft, interstellar travel, for whatever reason, if you pick up some kind of beacon, you have to investigate it. It's like
company
policy that you have to investigate it, which I would love to see the paperwork on. That would be what I'd say to him, because I would. That's unbelievable to me. So,
can you imagine that paperwork on like space-time exploration laws?
It's like 45 pages long, but. Yeah, so they get this thing and they have to go investigate it. So they've got a little drop ship. They take the drop ship off and they land on this planet. Now they tell you, I think if I had remembered, if I'd seen this closer, I would have been able to tell you the exact time. But I think they're barely in the solar system, like in our realm of planets, right? So they're a decent ways. 10 months. They're 10 months. That's what it is. They're 10 months out from Earth. Going, I don't know what speed, but that's just
they never really get
they don't
into
tell
that.
you. They just tell you they're 10 months out for Earth.
What's great about all this, it's atmospheric, all the background story.
Dude. And the ship, we didn't really talk about it, but the ship looks like a fucking horror movie.
Yeah.
Like because it's a mining vessel, so it's not flashy. There's not like it doesn't look like a cruise liner, you know what I'm saying? Like it's built for entertainment. It's built to like mine shit, and that's it.
And it's one thing we didn't mention too. Like the movie's called Alien and whatnot, and people say it's science fiction. To me, it's never been really science fiction. It's a horror film.
Oh yeah,
it just happens to take place in space.
I wouldn't debate it because the second one would be science fiction.
Yeah, that's science fiction action all the way.
This one is straight up horror, and it's scary as shit. Dude.
Oh, it's so unsettling, but at the same time, it's lulling.
You know what does it? Jerry Goldsmith did the music.
Yes.
That music is insanely atmospheric. It's almost to the point where you don't even notice there is music, but it's still there and it's still working to influence your emotion on what's happening.
Yeah.
So when they land on this planet, they take this dropship off to this planet. And it's like the worst atmospheric conditions I've ever seen in my life. And I've got a note here that just says, above and beyond the Call of Duty, fuck this. That's my note. Where I would walk off that ship, dude. I'd take 2 steps and I'd say, nope, not doing it.
Well, first of all, it's like a black landscape. It's just rocky as hell.
Blue, like dusty wind, which I think they say is nitrogen.
You can barely, they can see like 3 feet in front of them.
They can't breathe. So
no,
they've got to
they have to wear spacesuits.
Spacesuits to go out there.
Big, clunky spacesuits. There's gravity on the planet.
Right, and that's something they mentioned too. They're like, oh, well, it's comparable to Earth, so they can walk around on it. So they go up there. I think it's Dallas, Kane, and Lambert, I think, are the ones that go. So they all go off, and they see this ship sitting there. And like I said, if they had given us a little background, we might have known what they were thinking, but since they're obviously, at least in my opinion, and I think Chad's, they're aware of extraterrestrials.
Well, they might have thought that it was just some other company's ship.
Yeah,
unless Weyland-Yutani, like the company for space mining. I don't know.
Yeah, they don't make a point to say, "Oh, that's such and such," or like they don't recognize the ship, so they just walk up to it. They get in there, and why don't you go ahead and tell them what happens when they get in there? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, so then they climb down in there and they find like basically looks like a dead giant skeleton looking through a telescope.
Dallas says that it's fossilized, which I found interesting.
Huh.
Fossilized would have to take hundreds of years.
I don't know.
Well, I guess it depends on
it
depends on the conditions.
Probably an eon or something. Well, it's not crushed between rock layers or anything. So it's a fairly spacious area. So for it to fossilize in open air like that. I don't know how nitrogen fossilizes stuff.
They've been sitting there for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that was the point of him saying that. And his chest was bursted open, right?
I don't remember.
It was. Yeah.
I
I was saying that just for you to say yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. It was busted open. So it looks like an alien sitting in a cockpit. And this thing is like 10 foot tall. So this is a huge ass alien. Maybe bigger. And it's got...
Yeah, I think they're 10 feet.
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And it's got a hole in its chest, like someone was inside their chest and just blasted their chest with a shotgun, if that makes sense. Oh, God. Right. That's what it looks like, and he's just sitting there. So they go looking around, and
then they find a bunch of eggs.
Yeah.
Well, who stumbles upon
Cain?
Cain
Does, yeah.
It's Cain, and there's just this misty,
which is weird,
little like...
What the fuck is
It looks like a
that?
Swamp. It's great atmosphere. It's that great atmosphere.
No, but he actually comments on the fact that there's like a mist covering it.
It must be humidity from the eggs because, it's a bioorganic organism.
Maybe that's what it is. They never really mention it.
No,
it was like a layer that was sitting over it.
And then one of the eggs opens up and...
Slowly. Oh, God, dude. You know what one of the worst parts is? Like, one of the scariest parts is the thing opens up. So,
but you see it move inside of it.
Yeah.
And once it opens up, you see the tail move before it jumps out.
They've got a camera shot where it's slowly creeping up on the egg.
And that camera, that's about the camera shot, the cinematographer, Derek Van Lint. Just
Brilliant.
Masterful in this movie.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so like you're slowly creeping, like it's almost like you're peeking your head into like a coffee cup to see what's in there, and you see something moving around in there, and it's like he's got the guts to put his face next to this thing. Hell no, dude, no way. So it comes out and like something comes out, you can't see it, flashes real quick and latches onto his.
Basically, looks like a spider with giant testicles and a tail. latches onto his helmet. Well, it kind of like breaks the helmet because with such
breaks
force, goes right through it and attaches to his face.
Which I think is an important plot point because if it broke it, how it kept him alive. Because if it broke through his thing, he can't breathe nitrogen or anything. So how'd he live to get?
Oh, like it was converting.
It was either doing that or it was breathing for him.
Yeah.
So it attaches to his face, and this thing, it's known now. We know as a face hugger.
But back then, like, nobody knew.
Right. Nobody knew what it was.
That was the cool thing about it.
It looks like your hand with your forearm as a tail.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it looks like.
Almost.
Creepy as shit. Yeah, if you put your hand over top of your face, that's what it looks like sitting on this guy's skull, and it will not come off.
Well, and they bring him back to the ship.
Yeah. They bring him back, and this is one of my favorite parts, and I made note specifically for this. Ripley could have prevented this whole damn thing. The whole thing could have been prevented.
Oh, she let him in.
No, she didn't want to let him in.
No, that's what I mean.
So no. She didn't even let him in. Ash does it.
Oh,
so she's there. She's there, and she's looking, and she sees that he's got this thing on his face. And Dallas is like, "Ripley, open the door. We have, we got this problem. There's something wrong with Cain." And he's like, she goes, "Well, I mean, company policy says that you got to be in quarantine for 24 hours." Mm-hmm. And then because they don't know that he can breathe because his thing is busted. They're like, he's gonna die if he sits out here for 24 hours. Open the damn door. This is Dallas telling her.
And she goes, Ripley's like,
she doesn't say anything though. She says nothing. And he's like, "Damn it, Ripley, do you hear me?" And she goes, "Yes." And the answer is no.
Yeah. Well, she's a hard ass, man.
Yeah, it's so great.
There
That's
for the
one
work.
of my favorites. And
she's
then
got a kid to feed.
Does she? Oh yeah. Yeah, damn. And then Ash walks up to the door. The the scientific officer.
Yeah.
I thought propelled by some intrigue to find out.
Let me get my
notepad. Yeah. Opens the door, and then they come on in, and now they've got Cain in what is it? It's like a hospital, like a little infirmary.
Oh yeah, their infirmary.
Trying to figure out what this thing is, and this thing's got its tail wrapped around his neck, and it's sitting on his face, but he's still breathing.
So they try to cut it off.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And it bleeds acid.
Yeah,
and the acid, great scene.
I was
That
say,
scene
how
is great.
badass
Well,
is
the
that?
acid comes off and it bleeds. It hits the floor and it eats through the floor and it starts eating
Floor
through
after
layer
floor
like
after
hulls
floor.
of the ship. And there's just this great scene where they're all running down to the next hall. It's on the next floor. It's on the next level.
which is like tense as shit.
Well,
because if it goes through the hole, you're screwed.
Yeah.
All your oxygen's gone. You're dead.
Yeah. Stop it. Like how deep is this going
Imagine
to keep
what would
going?
they have done, like if it got to the last floor.
I'm sure they could have shut off holes or something. Like
I don't know, man.
That ship goes through space. It gets hit by asteroids. There has to be safety
the
measures
outer
for
hole
that.
or something.
Yeah, there's got to be some stuff
Yeah.
for that. Yeah, I don't know.
That's just a guess. They were acting like if it went through that they were screwed. So
Yeah. Well, I think, just all the equipment in the ship in general, because that whole ship is like wires and pipes that are dripping water. They got a
it's
leaky
horrible.
boiler
It's
system
horrible.
somewhere in
and
there.
it's funny because Brett and Parker like take advantage of that. They're the only ones who know how to fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
And just to give you like some idea who they are, they're the guys at work that like are like super good friends,
Yeah.
and fucking hate everybody else.
And they're the whole reason that your job even exists. Like,
Yeah,
without them, everything would break down because you're too fucking dumb.
There's a great line where they're trying to get back. Remember, I said they took a shuttle down to the planet. So they get back on the shuttle and they're trying to fly back up to their actual ship. This is before they try to cut the alien and all that. It's before they get back.
Well, the face hugger that's still attached to Kane, yeah.
Yeah. So they're still on the shuttle and they're trying to get back to the Nostromo.
Yes.
And there's a damage to the ship because they landed hard. And Ripley's like, well, how long is this going to take to fix? And Parker knows. Parker's like, tell her like 17 hours. And Brett gets on the radio and is like, yeah, it's going to take 25 hours. And they can do whatever they want because nobody else knows how to fix it.
Nobody else can do it.
Yeah. And Parker just gives him this laugh like he's satisfied. And that's his boss. That's the worst part. So when your boss is complicit, no work's getting done. No.
Your boss hates his job too.
Yeah.
It is a very much a movie about people and their job.
Yeah.
This is their job.
Yeah. Oh, and I want you to
Let me
keep in
bitch
mind.
about taxes. Like there's lines about when they're like, I'm just gonna take it out of my taxes.
There's another great line with Brett and Parker where they're pissed off. They're walking around the bowels of the Nostromo, right? And they're like, I know one ever comes down here. This is Parker talking to Brett. He's like, because you don't have a personality, dude. They don't want to come down here and talk to you. It's like, you got to be more friendly. So they're bitching why nobody wants to come down there and talk to them. And then somewhere around this time, there's some other kind of problem. And Ripley's like, all right, I'm going to come down there and check it out. And they're like, okay. And as soon as they get off the radio, they're like, what the fuck is she coming down here?
Yeah.
Like, what is she going to do?
They don't want
It's like they're never
anybody
going to
down
be
there.
happy with what they've got.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's happening. They're going to be pissed off.
Yeah. And they know.
Oh, yeah. But it's because they have to do all that work, dude. I mean, imagine the stress of being an engineer on a spacecraft. If you fuck up, everybody's dead, dude.
And
Like-
that ship is huge.
Oh, my God.
It's
yeah.
like a mile long.
It is. We didn't mention that. It's holding 20 million tons of mineral oil, so it's
Yeah.
got to be pretty big. It's probably, you could, if you had people running through it, what would you say, like maybe 500 people could be in there at a time?
easily.
1,000?
I mean, they talk about how those vents and air ducts just like go
Go on and on, yeah. So it's a huge, but they're a skeleton crew because the
Yeah.
company's cheap and they're just trying to get the stuff back to the planet.
You know.
So basically, there's a lot of bitching and complaining about what to do with Kane because now he's sitting on the ship with this damn
His
alien on his
liability.
face. Yeah.
What is, this is an extraterrestrial being. It's obviously something. And they knew, and they don't know if it has
Well, they don't know what it
diseases.
is.
They don't know what the
dude.
fuck it is,
They don't
man.
know what it is, and it bleeds acid.
It
by the
bleeds
way.
acid.
And it's sitting on this
Ripley
guy's
just
face.
wants to dump him, too, doesn't she? She's just like...
No, she wanted to put him in. Well, she
Cryo.
She wanted to put him in contamination. She wanted
Yeah.
to put him in decontamination
Yeah.
or quarantine.
Yeah.
And then since that's not the case, everybody's exposed. Now she just wants it off the ship, or
Yeah.
put him in I think Parker wanted to freeze him, but I don't think Ripley ever mentioned it. She wanted it off the ship. Bottom line.
Yeah.
And here comes Dallas. Now this dude, I've always liked Dallas. I've
Yeah.
always liked him. I thought he was badass. He's sitting there like listening to classical music. It's like this over the whole thing, but he's still professional, you know. But this killed it for me, dude. I really think I have to say fuck you, Dallas, because of what he says here. So if you remember, he's just like going crazy about how he wants Ripley to open the door and let Kane in.
Yeah.
And if you watch it, he's like, open the damn door. And she's like, even if it's against the law, he's like, you're goddamn right. Open the door. Like going nuts.
Yeah.
Then here's the scene where Ripley, Ash, and Dallas are sitting there. And Kane's on the table with the alien on his face. And Ripley's like, you know, we got to get rid of this thing. Like, the company's not going to have this. We have to get rid of this. And Ash is like, well, I'd like to study it further. I'd like to poke and prod at it. I'd like to figure out what it is.
Scientist with his notepad.
And Dallas goes, all right, Ash, whatever you want. And walks off. And then Ripley's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you're going nuts. And then he says, this is what kills me. He's like, well, Ash is the lead scientific officer. If that's what he wants to do, orders are orders. That's why we're here. We're just here to follow orders. What the fuck were you following like less than 24 hours ago when you're screaming at her to break the law and open the door? That's the most inconsistent thing in the world. Like, I would have jumped down his throat for that. I'd be like, oh, now because it's a problem and you don't want to deal with it, now we follow the rules. Shut the hell up, dude. Like, that really made me mad. And I hadn't noticed it till I last watched it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so that's what happens, and nobody knows what to do with it. They're all pissed off. Let Ash fuck with it. And then we'll move on.
Well, then it just comes off. The alien just it just dies. It's like they just find it right next to him, like everybody's a dead little curled up spider.
They're eating dinner or something, and then Ash goes back in there, and they find out that it's not on his face anymore.
Yeah,
which is fucking creepy.
Yeah.
So then
they'll stop and like, well, where is it? Yeah. They're all like, where the fuck is it?
So
they're freaking out
in the room, and they're like creeping around, checking vents, and there's no fucking way that I would be doing that, dude. Yeah. No way. That thing was so scary looking, dude.
Well, then they just find it dead in the corner. Too.
Yeah, it like drops on one of their heads, and they all freak out.
Yeah.
A cheap scare.
It was a cheap scare.
Here it comes out of nowhere to scare them.
It was a fake scare before the real build-up.
It was. And then, what, like maybe 10 hours later, Kane gets up.
And he's
walking
hungry.
around. Oh, yeah, he's hungry as hell. So it's like, okay, so everybody goes to eat dinner.
Hey, Kane, eat some more of this. How's it going? And then he coughs, and Parker's like, "Oh yeah, what did he say?"
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, you don't like the cornbread?"
Yeah,
it's like a running joke in the series about shitty cornbread.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
He just starts coughing, and they're like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Something's wrong with him. Something's
really
wrong
bad,
with him."
Like
and
really bad.
Yeah. Then they falls onto the table. They lay him on the table, kind of.
That was crazy too.
And then his chest just starts. There's like blood starts splurting out, and his chest just rips open, and this alien comes out of his chest. I think one of the best parts is that nobody knew about that except for him, the actor playing Kane.
Wow!
When they filmed that scene,
I didn't know.
Nobody knew.
Oh, that's great! I think for a reaction
that was going to happen.
Everybody was silent.
Nobody had seen like the effect yet and stuff. And so when it happened, like, it was just like, what the fuck?
I love those stories. Yeah. Dude. That's awesome.
Well, because they wanted a more genuine reaction. Nobody had seen what the chest burster looked like. And we say chest burster, this is like the thing that was on his face laid an egg, basically, or a chest burster. I don't even know how, they didn't really get into like how it does it. But lays an organism inside of its stomach.
Yeah. It essentially uses him as a host.
Yeah.
For the larger drone, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. They're almost like an ant-like society if you think about it that way.
Well, not when we're thinking about it. Yeah, I mean a little bit, but we're only talking about alien. We're not talking about any.
No, I know, but I'm saying
we don't know there's a queen. We don't know.
Right? Yeah. All you know is that there's something,
eggs. There's a face hugger.
And now there's something bursting out of Kane's
And now
chest.
There's this snake-like little thing bursting out of
It's
him.
got like little teeth, platinum-looking teeth. Like it's giving this face like, bitch. It looks so funny. Well, I mean, it looks funny to me now, but if I had seen it, I'd have been horrified. And then it scurries off the table in like 2 seconds and it's gone.
Yeah, and then they're chasing after it.
I think it's important that Ash tells him not to touch it, remember? Because Parker picks up a knife and is about to just jack this thing right in the face. And Ash's like, no, don't do it.
Well, because the scientist needs.
Well, he's got to get his notepad again.
And if he just stabbed it, I mean, there would have been some acid, but they would have been fine.
Yeah. I don't think it would have been any problem.
I don't think the entire rest of the crew would have fucking died.
That's actually the setup of the movie.
What?
That's just the setup.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that now you've got this whole thing running
And
around.
it takes 45 minutes to get to this point in the movie.
Yeah. It's
Somewhere
all,
around
it's
there.
all about
It's
it's
a
all
while.
about dealing with
It's a horror movie. It's build up. It's
Yeah.
all about build up.
But you know what though? I think it's interesting because if you look at a classical horror movie,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Myers, or excuse me, Halloween, or any of those, like what it is. You know what I mean? It's a human. It's a guy coming
You're
at you.
going into the movie knowing, what's
In this case, you don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
Like that thing has already changed form once now. Like
Yeah.
it was a face, the thing that attached your face.
It was
Now
an
it's a little
egg, it was a
creeper.
face, now
it's like,
it's
what the
a
hell is it going to
snake.
be the next time I see it? Like,
Yeah.
and now it's on this gigantic mining ship
Yeah.
that is nasty and horrifying looking, and you have to go find it.
Yeah.
Or do you not? Like, what do you do?
What do? You just say, whatever.
They decide that they're going to go looking for it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, at this point,
Well, they want to get it off their ship.
I'd be so pissed, dude. If I was Ripley, I'd be so pissed. I wouldn't even cooperate.
It's that
cooperate.
incident of, she just wants to be like, I fucking told you guys.
Yeah. Oh, I'd say it. I'd be like, fuck you, you deal with it. I'm not running around in the bowels of the ship looking for some monster. Like, you go ahead and have fun. I'm not doing that. I follow the rules.
Yeah.
I would. And there's nothing they could say to me that I would just go put myself in my little cryo thing and that would be it. Wake me up when you kill it.
Yeah.
But they have like some kind of like motion sensor supposed to find it. Now they're creeping around on this damn derelict ship.
With
I
these
call it
makeshift
derelict.
weapons like cattle prods.
It's not even makeshift. It's shit, dude. Cattle prods, like not weapons.
Why did they even have the cattle prods?
I don't
Did they
know.
make it?
It makes you think like, where were they harvesting this oil from? Like, was it some farm planet?
Was it some giant bugs?
Think about
that
it.
they
Was
milk?
it literally a terrestrial planet?
Yeah.
That there's so many people now that they specifically use this planet for like food production.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Never
That's
know.
the only reason I can think they have a cattle prod on.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got this planet with like millions of cows running around cranking out.
That are just like free range.
Yeah, and
all the
there's-
time.
yeah.
And also on this planet, it could be minerals and
They don't go into it.
just farm planets. Yeah.
They don't go into it. And I think it's interesting that Ash builds a motion sensor. He says he puts it together.
Yeah.
That's pretty intelligent if you don't have one in the first place, that you can find the parts to do
Mm-hmm.
that. But they put it together. They go creeping around. They do the classic cat scare like 4 or 5 times.
Oh, yeah. The stupid cat on the ship.
Yeah, and the best part is, oh shit. The best part is it's the same size as I just hit my nose on the microphone. So I'm thinking it was like a huge.
A huge noise. I don't know. I've done it like 5
I'll have to
times
find
already.
out. I'll have to find out later. We're supposed to be improving.
Oh.
Trying to grab my notes here. I dropped them. But yeah, they do this cat scare like 6 or 7 times. That's not true. It's maybe like 2 times. But because
I think it's only twice.
it feels like it because it scares the shit out of me every time they do it. But because it's the same size the cat is roughly to the alien that's running around now, or so we think, it works perfectly. It's like the perfect mechanism to just cheaply scare the crap out of people.
Mm-hmm.
So they get to a point where they're getting ready to capture it.
Somebody was just like honking outside, and it startled me. It was really funny.
That's a part of that grassroots stuff we were telling you about
Yeah.
last episode. So they go looking, and this cat pops out, and they say, and what's his name doesn't pick it up. What's his name? Brett. First of all, I don't know why they put Brett and Parker on the same search team, because when you do that, you know shenanigans are going to be happening, because they're best friends, clearly, and as they walk around, they're not going to be serious. Even in this kind of situation, you can see them being stupid. So they go looking for this alien, and this cat pops out, and Brett, being Brett, doesn't drop the net on it. And so the cat goes scurrying off. Well, he doesn't see a problem with that. So they say, well, you go get it, dumbass. And he doesn't understand why he has to go get it. Because, again, like I said, it's the same size. They might pick it up on the motion sensor. It could lead them off on some huge... I'm trying to think of the word. Like a goose chase. That's the word I'm looking for. They go on this huge goose chase for this stupid cat. So they send him off to go find it. And this is when the first time you actually see the alien in its true form and its true size The thing is like 8 foot tall at this point.
It unfurls himself from the
you know
chains.
what's great though? He goes in there and he's looking for this cat.
Yeah.
Just like you said, they show you a shot. Like he's looking around. Brett's looking around for the cat. And he looks up. And there's like chains and stuff hanging from a vent. And you can see it clearly.
You can see it when you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, when you know what you're looking for, you can see it. But if you don't, you can't. You really can't. So that's because it almost looks like the ship, which is kind of creepy. It's very dark, very black.
Yeah.
So then this thing, well, before we even get there, this is what struck me. He looks up, and then like there's something dripping from these vents. It can't be anything sanitary. It's either coolant, or dirty runoff from an air conditioner. He's rubbing it all over his face. He's opening his mouth to drink it. I was always
because he's like, it's nice and cool on my face.
He opens his mouth to drink it. What the fuck, dude?
But the whole ship is like dripping water all the time. It's weird.
That's so nasty. It's so nasty.
Yeah.
So he finds the cat, and classic, he's looking at the cat, and here comes this thing behind him. And he turns around, and then you get to see it, and the second mouth comes out. Like, if you know what we're talking about, it's going to sound stupid. It's got a little mouth inside of its mouth.
That extends outside of its jaw.
Sounds dumb, but it's horrifying when you look at it. Spit going all over the place, saliva everywhere.
Well, the thing is, like, it's got a very, like, mucusy film on it.
Yeah.
On its body. And I don't know if that's because of the way it grows so quickly to allow its body not to crack and like rupture.
That's a good point.
I wonder what the actual physical reason for that would be. They probably didn't care when they were making
until
the movie.
Somebody asked them that question.
Yeah.
They have to come up with the answer.
It was probably just a thing like, what if it was just like dripping in this goo?
We got to mention that the guy who played this alien, his name is kind of hard, so I'm going to say it the best I can. It's Bolaji Badejo, I think is the name.
6'10".
6'10", dude. And I think it was Ridley Scott who saw him and thought that his arms looked disproportionate to his body. Like he was just this huge. I think he was an exchange student. I didn't do that much research on it, but he just saw him and was like, "Dude, you want to be, you want to be a monster in my movie that I'm making?" And he was just like, "Sure, whatever." And that's how they cast like one of the most iconic characters like of all time.
Yeah, and there was also 2 stuntmen, Eddie Powell and Roy Scammell.
There's actually
also
photos
played in a few scenes.
What do you call those photos? Like the cast photos or whatever?
Like behind the scenes photos?
You can see them standing next to some guys, and it's ridiculous. It's like their head, and a normal sized person, 6 something, is like up to this guy's belly button. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, at least 7 foot inside the costume.
Dude. It's a perfect find. Yeah, so the guy's huge, and the best part is they create this illusion. It's not even really an illusion, but they create this image of him being so big, and no CG was used.
Which is great camera tricks.
Camera tricks. The guy's already gigantic. It looks horrifying. And, of course, Brett just gets taken. That, I think, is the worst part. They don't show you what happens to him. You just hear this horrifying scream, and, like, Parker and Ripley come running up, and he's nowhere to be found. You hear the screams up in the vents, right? Like, echoing in the vents, and the chains, like, jingling, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's fucking horrifying, dude. Like, that's one of those moments where I was like, oh, God. Like, when you're watching actual horror movies and they really manage to scare you? That was one of those times.
Yeah.
Because you have to remember, they didn't see it. Could you imagine? Like, you have to put yourself... You really have to have a lot of empathy to get into horror movies. Like, if you can put
put yourself in their shoes. But that's a good horror movie, too. It's not like... People don't do things and you're like, why are you doing that? It's... Well, I don't know. When he goes in that room with all the chains, that room's fucking freaky looking.
Dude.
A torture chamber from Hellraiser.
He also finds the skin on the ground, too.
Yeah. Like
before he gets eaten. Well, he's not eaten. We'll talk about it later. He's taken, but he found the old skin of the alien in that room.
So it looks like snake skin.
Yeah, like snake skin. So something's going on. Like,
right then and there, it's like, what the hell is this? Because, you're in space. Any foreign thing that you suddenly find, wasn't supposed to be there.
Oh, yeah.
So you see that skin laying on the floor, your mind just has to be going all over the place.
So then I have a note that just says, Dallas is out of his mind. And I know exactly what it is. It's when now someone's been taken and this is serious shit, and they know it's using the vents because it went in the vents, right? When it took Brett, it disappeared in the vents. They all convene after this. This scares the shit out of everybody.
The vents to get around.
Yeah, so they go convene, and Dallas is like, all right, well, I'm going in there. What? Like, what? Are you serious? Well, actually, I think they're like debating who's going to go in there, and Ripley says she's going to.
Yeah.
And then Dallas is like, nah, I'm going in there.
I think Dallas probably feels guilty by this point.
Yeah.
He knows that
dude,
he's the one who brought this on.
Man. Like, that's why I love Dallas,
ship.
dude.
So now it's his ship. He brought it on the ship like a dumbass. Now he feels like he's responsible to take care of it.
I didn't think about that.
And Ripley was the one who was like, no, don't bring this on the ship.
I didn't think about that. I bet you're right.
He's sitting there like, God, dude, she was right. And I screwed up. I got to go fix this.
So he has Parker rig him a couple of incinerators, is what they call them.
Yeah.
They're essentially flamethrowers. And they have that little motion sensor, and they're monitoring him in the vents. And this, to me, is probably the second best scene in the whole movie. Because that shit is scary. We're talking like 5 feet, maybe 4 feet of space for him to crawl around.
It's like 4x4.
Yeah,
like
basically it's the point where he's like crouched up as if his knees are like next to his shoulders, kind of deal.
Yeah, he's down. Like, he's on his haunches. Like he
Yeah.
has to walk like that, or you like kind of slide on your belly in a way.
I think that's what the alien was doing, dude.
Oh well, it's just
Isn't it what it does? See, we're going to talk about a game called Alien Isolation, which really, really expertly duplicates this kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's essentially, it's almost like a rehash of the first movie.
Oh yeah, it kind of lets you play out that idea.
Yeah, like where you're on a ship and you're
There's
essentially
something after you.
Ripley's daughter looking for the black box in Nostromo. This is the video game now that we're talking about. I want to make sure everybody knows that that's where we are.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah, well, I'm just talking a little bit about it.
No,
and the reason is when you see the alien in the vents in the game, that's how it comes at you. It's crawling, like it's completely stretched out, and you just see its head and its arms, like it's using its arms to drag its body through the vent.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it was doing it in the movie. But they see this dot coming at Dallas. He doesn't see where it's coming
It's right
from.
above you.
And then eventually he's like, all right, I want to get out of here.
Yeah, he's finally just like,
he changed his mind. He's like, I want to leave now. And they're trying to get him out, but they can't figure out where it is.
Yeah.
So
because they're sealing off doors behind him,
Yep.
and he's like, all right, so and so hatch of hatchway and
basically vent covers.
vent area here. He's like, it's like I'm sealing it. Nothing else can get past this point. I know it's in front of me. I know it's behind me, type of thing.
Yeah, and there's like levels too.
Yeah, well, they're trying to seal off where it can go, so they know areas where they know it's not. They can go, okay,
they
it's
can
not
cut
there.
it off. Yeah,
it's not going to be there. Now, where else is it?
but they were ladders that were up and down.
Oh yeah,
if that makes sense. So he can go up, and then there could be like a tunnel. He can go left, a tunnel he can go right, or he could go back down the ladder, and there'd be another tunnel he can go left or right. So the dot stops like essentially right where he is, because this is a pretty shitty motion sensor. We're not counting meters or anything like the later ones. Like,
well, no, because what is the sensor originally built from?
I don't remember what it's built from, but I know it's meant to. Ash says it's meant to measure changes in air density, is what he says. But then Ripley says something about it being bullshit.
Yeah.
So I don't. I'm sure she's
Ripley
correct.
doesn't believe anybody's bullshit. She's so like sick of working there.
Yeah. But anyway, he goes up and down this ladder. They can't find it. And then Lambert, with the classic line, she's like, it's right behind you, or it's right next to you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And he looks at the camera, and of course the flamethrower is like, and he's shooting the flamethrower off all over the place.
Yeah, the camera's right in front of him.
Yeah,
he's
right in front of him.
staring into the lens of the camera.
And then he turns around, and it's right there in his face,
Yep.
and does like this horrifying scream, and then they cut it off. The best
Well,
part is,
they do the great shot of the alien there too.
Yeah.
Like it's like
It's like- it
extends
goes
its
like
hands
that.
out, and all you see is what Dallas is seeing,
Oh.
and it just fills the screen. And it's such a, you've seen it by now, but I always think that's like the better reveal.
Dude, that was so scary.
Yeah,
Because it's like
it's like ha!
you scared me to do that. Yeah, it's
See?
just like, it scares the. It's because it's so close to him.
Yeah.
and I think anybody can like relate to that feeling of turning around and somebody being right there,
being in the darkness and turning around and seeing the darkness come at you.
It reminds me like of Buffalo Bill creeping on Clarice.
Near
in
the end
Silence
when
of
he's got the
Lambs,
night
like,
vision
yeah,
goggles
yeah.
on.
God, like it's like that's what happens, but the thing actually pops out and gets him.
Yeah.
Or gets him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then again, they don't show you what happens. That's the worst part, dude. They don't, like, if you knew what it did to you, I think it would be scary. But
yeah, we don't know. You don't know if it's like eating them, if it's skinning them alive. You don't know.
Gone. And then
They're just
I think
gone.
Parker says he goes in there because they don't show you that. But he's like, oh, all was left was this, and it was the incinerator.
Yeah.
So it's like all his shit was gone.
Yeah.
And there's no blood.
He didn't
it's like,
eat
what
it,
the
like-
hell is it doing with them? Where is
You
it
know?
taking them?
And you never see that in any of them, any of the alien movies. You never see them eat them. They just drag them away,
Unless it's like straight up combat and they're like their life is threatened.
rip their
kind of
face
thing.
off or something.
Yeah,
Rip a
yeah.
human's
It's like
face
something's
off,
in their face with a gun,
Yeah.
and they'll do something. But I don't think their goal is to just kill.
No.
Because
Well, I guess you in Aliens, you see where they're like
you see
attached
it,
to the walls.
you see it in this one too.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I didn't even remember that, but yeah, you do. It's at the way end.
Oh yeah.
So now you're sitting there with it. Now all you got left is Parker, Lambert, and Ripley. And Ripley, of course, is like, all right, you know what? Oh, and Ash. I forgot about Ash. She's like, fuck this. Like,
As
I'm
is-
taking control. Like, I'm tired of this bullshit. Because now technically she is the leader, right?
Yeah.
And people are still giving her shit, but this is what she takes. That classic badass, like she's tired of being weak, she's tired of being pushed around. I was like, no, we're gonna do what I'm telling you to do. And then apparently she could not get access to the mainframe. The ship is a mainframe. It's like
Oh yeah,
yeah.
because well, she finally is supposed to have access for it because
right,
like,
because
she's
now
the new
everybody's
captain.
gone. Yep. So it's like a Jarvis and Iron Man suit, right? It's like a actual thinking mind. They call
it's
it
a
Mother.
It's
like
a
woman.
room that you go into.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. It's
Awesome.
It's a
Awesome
complete
looking.
opposite from the rest of the setting of the movie, where it's this white padded. It's like a dodecahedron, like, and you go inside of it, and it's this like insane
Buttons all
asylum
over the
white
place.
padded room with all these buttons and like little computers.
And here's like another good reveal that's kind of scares you.
Yeah.
She goes in the computer, and Ash is like against her going in there.
yeah, he's really against.
They don't tell you why. I think it was because he said he didn't want her to like mess with like the company protocols. It was some bullshit.
It was some bullshit. We know why. He really didn't.
Yeah.
but-
So she goes in there and finds out he had directive. Ash had directive
over everyone.
specifically to bring this alien back. So
Yeah.
the company knew about this distress signal. They purposely sent them down that route
Yeah.
to intercept it. And interestingly enough, I forgot to mention it, when they're actually on the ship in the way back in the beginning, they're on the alien ship, the mother was decoding the signal, and Ripley noticed that it looked more like a warning as
Yeah.
opposed to a distress signal. So that alien that got wasted way back in the day, like his last thing was to set a warning for people to stay the fuck away from the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So this company knew this and sent them there on purpose. She finds this shit out. She's reading it on this little teeny screen, right?
Yeah.
She's like real close to it. And then she like leans back in her chair, and then Ash
Ash
is right next to
there.
her. And it was like, oh shit, because you know he's gonna like do something crazy.
Well, because she was just reading right about him, and it's
Yeah.
like, why does he have directive over me? Like that doesn't make any
She's
sense.
scared. He goes like he doesn't say anything to her. She pulls back, and then he goes, "There's an explanation for this." You know, she just like freaks out because she didn't even know he was standing
Yeah.
there. Oh, that was so crazy.
Because the door seals behind you when you enter
Yeah.
the mainframe too.
yeah,
You know.
So he like creeped in there.
Yeah.
That's creepy. So then she's like irrational, like angry at him, which of course you would be, right?
Yeah.
So she's like, I don't know what she was planning on doing. Because you don't really get to find out. She was obviously going to tell everybody that he was a rat bastard, and
Yeah.
his whole purpose was basically to bring this thing back. And all of a sudden, this guy who's probably like 46, maybe 50.
Oh, and he's smaller than
than
Sigourney
Ripley.
Weaver.
He's got insane strength, so he's smacking that. Like he picks her up and just like tosses her like no big deal.
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 times because she's trying to like rat him out. And then he's just beating her up, and then he grabs a magazine. This is weird. I always thought it was like a weird way to try to kill
Isn't
somebody.
it a porno mag too?
It might have been. I don't know what it
And
was.
he tries to shove it down her throat.
Just
It's
rolls-
very vulgar. And
Yeah,
like,
he rolls it up and just sticks it down her throat.
Yeah, like that's so weird.
Weird,
that-
isn't it? It's like, why wouldn't you just strangle somebody? It's not even practical. It's like he wasn't. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, it was that his. It's revealed at this point
Parker
that-
comes up and
it knocks him on the top of the head,
Parker sees this happening,
and his like
rolls up.
head comes off, kind of right.
Yeah.
And you find out he's an android, which is he's a synthetic human. He's not even a real person.
white. If you want to
He's
call
a
it
robot.
blood, starts going all over.
Oh yeah, this like that creamy milk
Milk.
like fluid that runs through him.
And you know what's interesting? earlier in the movie, he was drinking
milk.
It looked like milk, but
Yeah.
I wonder if it was that shit that's in his blood.
Yeah, it's probably whatever his like. I think if you were to have a true android, you would need some type of constant fluid intake.
Yeah,
Just like
it
fuel
could
or
be
oil.
coolant, it could be fuel. It could be anything.
Yeah, it could be some type of nutritional base. I mean, I think Bishop says something about what it is in the sequel.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's when they're all in the cafeteria.
I know that that explains a lot, though. Explains why Ash opened the door when he wasn't supposed to.
Oh yeah, he's programmed to be the science officer.
Yeah, why he was so robotic, all that stuff. Now you realize what's been going on. Why he didn't want Parker to kill the thing on the table. Like, he's been trying to get this damn thing back since the start. And now he's kind of foiled because Parker's a big guy, and he takes it's like a fire extinguisher or a toolbox or something, and just drills him
Dude, his head, man.
right behind the ear.
Yeah.
And knocks his head off. So he starts freaking out. And then they hook him up, and this is like the best
Because
line.
they kill the robot, and then they're like, "Well, we need information.
Yeah,
let's turn him back on." And they just got his head sitting there on the desk,
which is a great piece of
practical
art, isn't it?
effects.
Yeah, because it's like,
it looks great.
yeah, it looks like what was his head. They had his
Yeah.
head like sitting next to a dismembered body. But
Yeah,
it was still the actor's
and it had
head.
some makeup around his neck into
Yeah.
the table.
Oh, it was
He's under the
great.
table, of course.
And he's got this weird robotic voice
Yeah.
now. And so they ask him, they're like, well, what the hell, like, what is it? And they're like, he doesn't really know what it is. He basically says the company wants to study it. They
Yeah.
want to know what it is. They might be able to use it. They might have uses for it.
Yeah,
And he's talking like all this, like he's acting like he's admiring it. And Ripley asked him that. He's like, you admire it, don't you? He's like, well, I admire its simplicity. He's like, it's a perfect killing machine and all this kind of stuff. And Ripley's getting ready to cut him off. And he's like, last word. This is great, because you wouldn't think an android would want to say something like,
to have a last word.
yeah, to have a last word, right? And I think that's almost why she doesn't cut him off, because she knew it wasn't going to be snarky. It was going to be something from a robot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's like, it's almost impossible to kill. You have my sympathies, and then he smiles. It's like,
Yeah.
he's like, I'm not optimistic about your chances. You have my sympathies. Like, basically saying, well, fuck you guys, y'all are dead anyway.
Yeah, you guys are probably gonna die. Like, I've calculated it in my robot brain.
Oh, that's bad. The
You're not
smile
gonna be able
that he
to kill
gives,
it.
though, the smile is bad, dude. Like, it's so bad. Yeah, he's just like, it's like, oh, you bastard. So, I think Ripley freaks out and, like, rips him to pieces at that point, and then Parker burns him. So now they've decided, all right, people are just dying all over the place. We have to get the fuck out of here, right? Here's our plan. Parker and Lambert, you go collect coolant. I don't know why they needed coolant. Oh, I know what it was. It was for the little capsules, the sleeping capsules.
Yeah,
I think they needed it to like
Well, because
power the
it
machines.
takes so long to get wherever they're going that they would die if they weren't put into cryogenic sleep.
Yeah.
So they need the chemical that goes into the cryogenic tubes.
Yeah. So they go down there.
And of course, that chemical is all the way on the other fucking side of the ship.
It is.
You know?
It is. And so they're going to for whatever reason, they have a self-destruct system on.
Well, I don't think they
on the
have.
Nostromo.
It's not they have a self-destruct system. It's they're just going to overload the reactors and make it blow up. It's not like a button that says self-destruct. I think
it is, dude. 'Cause-
Is it?
Well, I'm trying to remember.
I thought
what
they just
the
like
ship was
knew how to
saying.
do it.
They set it off, and I think she says something can't be aborted or something. Like
Yes.
it was like an actual system.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like if it was an accident, the thing would just start freaking out. But she literally says after 5 minutes, you can't abort this.
You're right.
So it's like there's a reason. they
Yeah.
decided there's a reason on a mining ship you might need a self destruct system,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess is kind of stupid, but whatever. So they're gonna set this thing off and then take off on that little shuttle that they used earlier to land on the planet. Well, guess what? Lambert and Parker go down there to get the coolant, and I think Ripley goes to do something ignorant. Oh no, she goes to set off the self-destruct. I was going to say I thought she was going to go get her cat, because the cat is hers. It ends up being like a weird fixture in the movies. But she goes to set the self-destruct off, and the fucking alien shows up, right? And it just drops right in front of Lambert out of nowhere. And that's what I think was really scary about it, dude. 6'10", the thing can creep up on you
Yeah.
just like that. And all of a sudden, it's like 2 feet away from you.
Yeah. In no time. It's like we'll cross the space of 100 feet in a second.
Yeah.
And you don't know where you don't know where it came from.
Nope. So it's standing right in front of her. and she just starts bawling. And that's why I brought up like the hysteria before, because
Yeah.
she's completely immobile. Parker turns around, hears her freaking out, and is like, Lambert, get out of the way. Because he's got the incinerator. Right?
Yeah.
He could just burn this thing. He's like, Lambert, get out of the way. I don't have a clear shot, because they were standing like right next to each other. If he fired off a flamethrower, it was going to torch both of them. She won't move.
Yeah.
She's sitting there crying, staring at it, and I'm losing my mind. Like, oh, like Chad,
Just
like honestly,
move.
God, dude, if we're in that situation, and I give you 3 warnings
To move to get out of the way.
and you don't,
I would have ran so fast.
I expect you to do the same thing that I would do to you, which would be light your ass up. I don't mean that to be mean, but I couldn't believe that she wouldn't move. I've never ran into a human like on Earth.
You know,
like,
you got to add 20 minutes more to the movie, so.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So Parker just drops his weapon inexplicably and runs up like he's gonna power, take this thing over.
Yeah.
And just gets owned. Like it turns around. It doesn't show you what it's doing to him again. It just like kind of shows his face and he's like bleeding. Everybody's getting butchered.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's dying at this point. They start dropping like flies.
Yeah, they're dropping the coolant all over the place. Ripley comes back and it's like, yo,
And
what's
is
up?
it just Ripley and Parker by this point?
Parker, Lambert, and Ripley. That thing comes down and simultaneously wipes out Lambert and Parker.
Yeah.
So it's just Ripley.
It's just Ripley.
Which is so fucking scary, dude. Like, can you imagine being there by yourself? The worst part is she's like calling for their names and she can't remember. Or they're not answering. So it's like, oh, I could only imagine that feeling. Because at this point, I'm so into this movie. Like, I'm putting myself in her shoes and I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, if I was sitting there calling for you and like somebody else and y'all weren't answering, I would start freaking the hell out.
So she started realizing, holy shit, I'm the only person like a million miles in space.
Yeah. She goes down there and sees him. And you see Parker laying there completely like blood all over the place.
Yeah.
And all you see of Lambert is like this dangling foot.
Yeah.
And like blood's just like gushing.
Yeah.
And you're like, can you imagine seeing that scene and thinking, holy shit, not only this, now I'm the only one here. This thing's creeping like somewhere around here. Like everybody's dead. So here's Ripley's plan. She's like, she had already set off the self-destruct system. It was going down. That's what she went to do. I think it was 10 or 15 minutes. So she came back. This thing's been counting the whole time. And then she is like, oh, fuck.
I forgot the cat.
No, it's not the cat. It's not even the cat. She tries to, when she's doing all that, she puts it in a box, like a carry-on, but that's like before she comes back.
Yeah.
But then she's like, oh shit, this thing's creeping around. So she tries to make it to the ship and sees it.
Yeah.
Remember? And it's like running around. And at this point, like the ship's freaking out. It's like preparing to blow up. So steam's going all over the place. You have one of the best, I think, I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's probably the best atmospheric environment of all time.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It is. It's
of
really
all
good.
time. You've got the alarm going off. You've got
there's steam shooting everywhere.
shooting all over the place. It's dark. There's lights flashing. It's like it's perfect for a horror.
There's
movie.
alarms going off. It's a sensory overload almost. By this point.
It's
by
crazy.
the quiet dreariness of almost the entire film is now just like it's blaring in your face, and it's something you can't escape now.
Yeah,
and the movie's shifted from being silent, a silent library, to a nuclear reactor about to explode.
It really does. I never even thought about it that way. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So now she sees this thing in between her and the ship, and she's picked up, when she went down there to see Lambert and Parker, she picked up the coolant she needed. So she's got everything she needs. But she's like, fuck, this thing's standing in my way. I can't get to my ship. So she goes running back and tries to cut the self-destruct off.
Yeah,
and
but you can't.
And no, she's trying to shut it down. She's got it's like 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And she said like 100 times, if it goes past 5 minutes, you can't abort this system.
Yeah.
So it's trying to shut down all slow. She's like forcing it, trying to shut off, and it won't.
Because it's like a hard mechanism to work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like little levers and
I hope so.
keys
because
you have to turn.
What if it was just a button? Some idiot pushes it. So she can't get it shut off. And then it's like, you can't abort this system. And the funniest part is, it's funny because I'm watching it, but then I'm thinking like, if this shit happened to me, I really want everybody listening to put yourself in her situation now. You're on a ship. 7 of your friends just got killed, right? This horrible monster's running around. Now you've set the self-destruct system off. You cannot abort it. Your only choice is to go past this thing. Because if you don't, you're
Yeah.
fucked. I mean, you're gonna die because the ship's
Yeah.
gonna blow up. So now it's like you either sit there or you have to go through.
Yeah.
And you know you're scared to death, dude.
Yeah.
That's so bad. Like when I was watching it, that just freaked me out so bad. Thinking like she doesn't want to do this. She has to do this, or she's gonna blow up.
Yeah.
It's like you either die or maybe live or die.
Yeah.
It's like one of the worst situations you could be in, and it's the best atmosphere possible. Freaks me out. Like I didn't realize how bad it freaked me out until I watched it.
Well, I remember watching the movie as a kid. But I think the first time I saw it, I was like 9 or something, 10. And I saw it on TV when I was young, real young. And I probably came in maybe after they brought Kane back on the ship. And I just remember flipping back, like, oh, I wasn't supposed to be watching this movie. It's rated R. Oh no! So I changed the channel, make sure my parents didn't watch something. But I just remember it's that scene, when she goes in and she thinks she's okay, and then she sees it like laying there.
Oh yeah, you're talking about after she gets on the ship.
When she gets on her shuttle,
Yeah, so she gets on the shuttle
to escape.
and
It's
ship,
on there with her.
Yeah.
And she did, she thinks she left it behind, and she's like removing her pants, like ready to go to sleep and shit. And then she's like, holy fuck,
She goes
it's
right up
right
to
in
it.
front of me.
Yeah, she goes like within 3 feet of it.
Yeah, without
Grabs
seeing it.
something.
And it just kind of shifts his
Moves a
body.
little bit. Oh.
And then she sees it all of a sudden. It's almost like on
It's in like a cubby.
it's
like
in a little cubby hole, like on the wall, like
Yeah.
right where she's going towards to like, because
That's
she steps out
terrible.
of her spacesuit and everything.
Yeah. So she ends up going down that hall, and then the Nostromo blows up, and she's on the shuttle. Is what we're referencing.
Yeah.
She
She
thinks the alien's dead.
She
'cause
thinks it
didn't
was
see
on the ship that she just exploded,
The
and
thing
she's safe and
crawled.
sound with the cat. And
Yeah. Oh yeah, the cat. Yeah.
yeah, she had to go back and get the cat.
I mean, I couldn't leave my dog, dude. Could you leave your dog?
Fuck
Could you-
that
could
stupid
you-
cat, dude. That cat does not matter in that situation.
I don't know. It would have been a hard decision. I wouldn't have ran back, but I probably wouldn't have. I wouldn't have just
yeah.
neglected it.
But I remember being a kid and then seeing that part where it's just like laying there, because you don't. It's one of those scenes where you can see it, but you can't. Like as a casual viewer of the film,
It's just like
and it's
the
that
air
scene-
vents.
It's just like the air vent scene. It's just in the shadow, and then it kind of shifts a little bit, and she sees it, and she's like, and you as an audience see it with her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, fuck, she's dead. She's dead. What is she going to do?
She's smart enough to get into the thing where all the
She
spacesuits are.
slowly climbs into the spacesuits are in these like little glass closets almost,
Yeah.
and she climbs inside of the closet, and she's just panting and like and she's slowly climbing into the spacesuit
man.
because her plan is she's gonna hit the door open and suck the thing into space, and then she moves, and because she keeps looking up and looking at it, and it's like slowly moving a little bit. It's almost like it hasn't noticed her yet.
She draws it out on purpose.
Yeah.
Which is really scary. Because she knows if she hits this button, it may not get it because it's so tucked away.
It's so like in a little
yeah,
safety
it might
hole.
be okay. And you have to remember, once that vacuum is gone, it's gone. A lot of
Yeah.
people think that, it just keeps going. Like,
Yeah.
if you open a hatch in space, basically what's happening is all the air is getting sucked out. You're
Yeah.
equalizing your pressure.
Yeah.
So when your air gets sucked out, that's it.
It's still gonna be in there.
Yeah, it could still be in there.
It's
We
not
don't
gonna
know if
keep
it can breathe in
Sucking
space
out
with
into
no
the outer
air.
space.
Yeah. So she has like one shot to like suck it out of the ship, and she's trying to put it right in front of the door. And she goes out there in a little spacesuit, sits down, and starts singing.
To gain her attention.
Oh, dude! Oh, and she doesn't have like the guts, I guess, to look at it.
Yeah.
So she turns around.
Yeah.
And like you don't see it coming out.
And then she looks back.
Looks
And
back
it's
real
gone.
quick. No, it's right. It's right.
It's
next
still
to
there.
her. It came out. It was creeping on her, and she turned around. It's right in the spot.
No, I
where
mean
she
it's
needed
right. It's gone from the spot that it was laying
Yeah.
in. Like the cubby hole's empty,
Yeah.
and you see that, and she's like, "Oh, now where'd it go?" Like it's just so quick. Like it just moves so fast
for being so big.
for so big, and like, and
so
alien
she,
hits the. Well, does she strap herself down?
yeah,
She straps herself
yeah.
down.
She strapped herself in like a one of the seats, so she
Chairs,
doesn't get
yeah.
sucked out, yeah.
And then opens up the. Is it just a door?
It's an airlock, dude.
It's just the airlock.
Yeah, she just opens the door to the ship.
Hits it open and it just starts sucking, and the fucking thing doesn't it grabs her foot?
It flies out and then hooks onto the ship.
Yeah.
and then crawls up in one of the thrusters.
Yeah.
And that's when she says something. I don't remember what she says, but hits the thruster button and just
Burns
obliterates the hell
Yeah.
out of it, which was a great moment.
Yeah, because it's still trying to survive.
Yeah.
It climbs outside of the ship and it
into one of, like, the little
thruster.
holes.
Like it's hanging on like like a bug that's stuck on you,
Yeah,
and
it
you're
won't
trying
get
to
off.
shake it off, and it's just like clinging on, and you fling off the giant insect or spider, and it lands on a different part of your body, and then it clings on
won't get
harder,
off
and
you.
it just doesn't want to leave because it wants to survive for some reason. Its sole purpose is to just feed and kill.
Yeah. Damn, I forgot to mention something.
What?
And I want to mention this.
No, mention it.
So before the ship blows up, after she'd found Parker and Lambert dead, when she was going to get the coolant, right?
Mm-hmm.
She sees Dallas strapped to the wall. Like there's some. It looks like snot, right?
Yeah.
Just like a bunch of like a giant basically hawked a loogie on you and stuck you against the wall is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And he looks weird. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like he almost looks like he's decomposing.
Yeah.
And he's just like, kill me. It's like, oh, what is this?
This is a
and then
running
she looks
theme
over,
throughout the
and they
movies.
don't tell you. And I didn't recognize it unless she says it.
Yeah.
But she says Brett, and you see Brett. Of course, he's been gone longer,
Mm-hmm.
and he almost looks like an embryo.
Yeah.
Like he didn't even look like a human. He's like some of his skin's gone from his face, so it's like digesting him into like a primordial soup.
Yeah.
To like eat, I guess.
And then you wonder if that's how it actually feeds. Like,
yeah. Like it has
like
to
a
digest
fly
him
or a
something.
spider or something. You know,
A spider would be perfect.
Yeah.
Injects whatever it has to
Yeah.
in this little thing and like
makes this body tissue softer so it can just take that little mouth, like sucks on it.
That's all horrifying, dude.
Yeah.
Like if you can put yourself
It's
in that
body
position.
horror too. Like
Huh?
it's that body horror genre where
Oh,
something
yeah.
is inside of you, something that's eating away at you, and you
It's
don't
bad.
know what.
So she ends up flaming him with the flamethrower anyway.
Yeah, she burns the fucking
like,
crisp.
out of sympathy. But yeah, anyway, she blows the thing away, and that's pretty much the end of the first movie.
Yeah,
She puts herself in cryo sleep and puts out a distress signal and just prays to God that somebody picks her up. And that's it. It's in my opinion, it is it does atmosphere pretty much better than anything you're ever going to see.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is like we were talking about the alarms, the steam, just the whole
well,
feel.
it's the buildup of it too.
the
It's
build-up.
such a slow build movie.
Yeah. The ambience, everything is awesome. And then you have Alien Isolation, which is essentially a game like we were mentioning earlier.
So then after that, 79 was Alien, and then 87 is the
Yeah.
sequel to Aliens. Aliens, directed by John.
It's
John.
no. It's hold on. James Cameron.
James Cameron, who is a very famous director.
That was going to be embarrassing if we couldn't remember it.
Yeah. And then they made movie after movie after movie.
Yeah.
I think there's been like 7 of them now or something. And I guess it's not as many as like Halloween, I suppose to say, but a lot of them, I don't know. I've never really even seen 3 all the way through, and I've always heard don't even bother.
Once when I was like 12. And
Yeah.
you know what it was? It felt like a rehash of the first movie, just with CG.
Yeah,
They're like,
and
let's see the alien running around CG.
And not nearly as good.
No, and it sucked. It looked
And then-
stupid.
And
Looks
then there's
dated.
Resurrection, which is
Never saw that one.
you never seen Resurrection?
Nope.
It's fun, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
not any good.
Oh, okay.
God, I want to say who directed it. It's
don't
someone
know.
we
I have no
know
idea.
too. Like it's very famous. Like I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I was pissed about like what they did in 3, which we'll talk about later. But that's why I never saw.
What about 3
Maybe
when
what-
they like?
Well, just what
Ripley
how
dies.
it ends. You know what I mean?
I mean, the whole thing is just who the hell cares type of thing.
Well, I like. I get attached to my movie characters, dude. And like that I just didn't care for it. I felt like at that point they were just like fucking with the characters to make money, and I can't stand it when they do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, well, Resurrection wasn't directed who I was thinking of. It was written by Joss Whedon,
oh, okay.
who
Damn.
directed those big Avengers movies that made a ton of fucking money.
Yeah. He also did Buffy too, I think.
Yeah, he created the Buffy series. What was that? Fucking Serenity and Firefly.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good stuff.
He's done some good stuff. But yeah, Resurrection's kind of goofy because it takes place like 200 some years later after 3 or something,
Yeah.
and Ripley's like a clone. And then there's the Alien versus Predator movies.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say to you. So I think I really wanted to do this show because I asked somebody at work. I said, "Hey, have you ever heard of Alien?" She's like, "Well, I mean, yeah, Aliens versus Predator." And I went, "Oh my god!"
And she had no idea.
She had no idea about Alien, so she's got my Blu-ray now and has to watch it because it's like, first of all, it's great. Like, I mean, it's a really, really good horror movie.
If you're really interested in film as an art form,
oh yeah,
I think it's one of the most important movies to watch.
Yeah,
it's really up there with like every great film.
I mean, 2's good too, dude.
Aliens is really good, but it's an action film,
right? But that's what I think. And
it's one of the best action films ever.
That's what stands out.
It's also one of the best sequels ever.
Yeah, so it's like,
it stands on its own from Aliens, completely different type of movie.
Yeah,
but the world fits, and I think it's the best of all the sequels. Of all the film sequels, it's the best one.
Yeah,
and it works well. I don't think 3 or Resurrection, the other. Whereas with
basically, we'll do those on bonus episodes.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
They don't really.
And then in 2014, is that when Isolation came out?
Yes.
Fall of 2014, they released a new video game called Alien Isolation, and there's a first person. It's more like a hide and seek type of game, but you're basically on a ship, and you play Ellen Ripley's daughter, Amanda Ripley.
Yeah,
and she's looking for her mom's black box. There's a whole bunch of like little stuff.
She's looking for the black box to the Nostromo.
So
they know the
Nostromo,
ship. They don't know what happened at this point.
Yeah,
they just know the ship blew up, and they had a bead on the black box of the Nostromo. Yeah. So they wanted to find a black box is basically like a flight recorder. Mm-hmm. So they could try to maybe figure out what happens. But then she ends up being in the same damn position
as her mom.
Yeah. It's like you're creeping around the ship. She's
on this giant like mining vessel that's circling this gas giant, and then like I think the great part about the game is the setting where it's about jobs again. Whereas the movie is about jobs and like people just doing their work. The game Isolation is because Amanda is just like, she's just a welder or something, and she gets asked to go there, and she's like, why the fuck would I want to do that? Like, well, it has something to do with your mom. Yeah. That you haven't seen in like 20 years.
Yeah.
And the game is just, it's slow build. I mean, I remember playing it for the first time. It took an hour for the alien to show up.
Yeah.
And it's unlike most games now where, you get guns and you shoot the shit out of everything that moves. You get like one gun, you get a revolver and a flamethrower the entire game. You finally get a shotgun, I think, too. But you can't kill the alien. And it moves through rooms, and it like, if you run, it hears you. If you shoot a gun, it hears you. If you knock stuff off a table, it hears you. And it'll show up and it'll just kill you. Like, it's like a one-hit kill. You can't avoid it. And so it's a very good horror game. It's a great horror video game.
I'd say it stands alone, to be honest. I don't know of another game where they do that consistently through the whole game where you can't kill an enemy.
I mean, I think games like Amnesia are like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Nemesis was a little bit like that too, if you think about it.
But what?
Nemesis?
Yeah, and Resident Evil 3.
But you could drop him, though. Like, you could get him off of you.
You could get him off of you. And it was possible. Whereas with the alien, it doesn't matter. You can shoot at it, and it just keeps... it'll come towards you, too. And, you can distract it and whatnot, but you really don't know when it's going to pop up. It can just pop up whenever it wants.
Yeah.
And definitely one of the harder games I've ever played, too. And I played on a hard mode probably about halfway through the game, and it just got to a point where it was too hard for me. I had to bump it down to easy. That's the type of game it is.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely replicates. You're going to hear some noise here for a second, or actually, we can probably edit this out.
No, I'd say about 8 more minutes.
All right, well, my microphone's falling, so I have to lift it up.
Hold on.
We can just edit that.
No, it's fine, man. Whatever. There we go. We're good.
All right. It was like I was ended up getting ready to do like I was like laying on the ground trying to sit next to the microphone because it was slipping. Yeah, that's pretty much all we have to say. I mean, go check out the movie if you like horror movies.
No, it's something I'd like to say about Isolation. If you've never seen any of the Alien movies and you're interested in it, but maybe you don't want to watch a movie from the 70s, play the game. Play Isolation. Yeah. Let that be your first introduction to it. Because I remember that was the one thing while playing the game, and we get into this like saturation of there's too many fucking alien movies. I think it's
dumbed it down. And we've also got Prometheus too, which
That's
is like
the
the
question.
prequel.
Though.
And
It's like, how many is too many? Like, how many movies can you make to where it gets pointless? And I think it's this: if you have a point to make and you know what you want to make, like if you have a vision,
yeah,
it should, and it stays true to what you've been trying to say the entire time, it'll
Yeah.
be okay. But once you start like,
doing it for the bucks.
yeah, start cranking stuff out, like for whatever reason, like, oh, I mean, I guess the idea of Alien versus Predator is okay, but that's like a video game idea.
Hey, let's make a movie. They'll make money. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't see that being like a movie that should have been made.
Yeah, that wasn't so much as the goal with the first film, and then you see what it spawns.
Yeah.
Whereas, and it was something original and new at the time. There had been really
for
nothing
example,
like it.
they changed the series. Like if you watch Alien and then watch Aliens, it's a complete change.
Oh, yeah.
It's like one alien creeping around in a horror movie, and the second one, obviously, Aliens.
One alien that they can't kill and it's destroying them.
Yeah. Then you find next one you got Marines running around shooting up like 30 of them.
Yeah.
So it's like a complete switch, but it still works because they do it well. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me complaining, but I guess I think that pretty much covers everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we could probably like go on and on, but
yeah. All right. Well, if you guys want to send any comments or anything that you like about the movie or want to mention or want us to talk about, again, you can email us at poweronpod@gmail.com. Review us on iTunes if you can. That would be great. It helps us stay up in the rankings because there's the last thing I noticed, there's a shit ton of shows on there now. So if you review us, it helps us to stay relevant. You can find us on Facebook at PowerOn Podcast, and we're on Twitter at PowerOn Pod.
what's your personal Twitter?
Oh God! If for whatever reason you want to find me on there, it's at Dashing Drew Rude, and I don't remember what yours is.
I'm at Cathode Visions.
Is it you sure it's Visions? Because last time you
Might have
didn't
been a
know.
vision.
Okay.
I don't really know. Find it. There's your.
His profile picture is a giant eye. I know that. So if you want to find him,
that's
it.
the.
We're going to be recording probably one or two extra episodes. I don't know what we'll do. I mean, I haven't really decided yet.
Yeah.
They'll be on Patreon. If you want to download those and support the show, go to patreon.com/poweron. And I think that covers pretty much everything, dude. You ready to blast off into space?
Sounds pretty good right now.
All right, dude. Okay, guys. I guess we'll see you later.
We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.